guys, it's Alex, and today I'm here with my Rereadathon Reflections video for May. The May prompt was to reread a book from a genre that you don't read as much anymore, and I decided to go with middle grade mystery novels because when I was a kid, I loved those things. I read so many different series, a lot of Hardy Boys, a lot of Nancy Drew, Boxcar Children, Encyclopedia Brown, pretty much anything. I just really love those books. But as an adult, I really don't read them at all, even though I still have an entire shelf just dedicated to my collection of them, mostly Hardy Boys. So today is June 1st. I am late on this. I spent a lot of time at my boyfriend's, and I didn't want to film there, first of all, because it's weird to film like around him. And second of all, I didn't bring the books that I actually needed to reread, and he didn't have any books on his shelf that would like fit this challenge. So I'm getting this all done on June 1st, and this is going to be kind of a day of rereading. I don't know exactly what I'm going to read or how much I'm going to read. I have 2 books with me right now that I'm going to start with, and then I'm going to see if I want to read like more, like maybe pick up some Nancy Drew or some different Hardy Boys or even Boxcar Children. But essentially what I have with me are 2 books from the same Hardy Boys series. I grew up on the original Hardy Boys. Like, that was what I first fell in love with. Like, those old books from, I think, the 20s and 30s was when they were originally published. And I really did love those. But when I was, I don't know, like 10, these books started coming out. Maybe 11. And it was, like, the perfect time that I was, like, old enough that I had, like, kind of enough money to go to Barnes & Noble and get books on occasion. And this series was coming out. This is the Undercover Brothers series. American Teens Against Crime is this organization. The Hardy Boys are like kind of spies, almost. Not really spies, but basically they have this secret organization that like finds crimes and sends them out, and it's like kind of silly. I mean, like, it's Hardy Boys. They were all kind of silly. But this is like a modernized version, like clearly. Well, from this cover you can see, like, it's modernized. The dude's in a hoodie. Well, can't really see on that one, but they're modernized. I don't really remember much about them, but, like, I do own most of the books in the series. Not all. I think there are, like, 30, and I own, like, 21 or 2 or something like that. So, I own a lot of them, and I don't know. I'm kind of interested. I grabbed the first 2 because I want to read Extreme Danger and Engulfed in Flames, which I don't really remember either of them, but I'm kind of intrigued, and I want to go back and see. And this might be kind of a long video if I decide to read a bunch, or I might just read these 2 and be like, that's fine. So I will check back in probably once I finish the first one, just because I don't see much of a point in like interrupting my reading of such a short book, because like these 2 together is still like very short for a novel, so I expect to be done with them in like 30 or 40 minutes. So I have finished the first book, Extreme Danger and the Hardy Boys, Undercover Brothers series, and it's fun. Like, it's a lot of fun. I gave it 4 stars. I think a lot of that is nostalgia though. Like, this book is fun for me because I loved it as a kid, rather than like fun because it's a really good book. Like, there are definitely issues with the writing and issues with like the characters being a little bit one-dimensional, but it's fun and it's so unrealistic too. I think I'd forgotten just how unrealistic, because like the American Teens Against Crime, they literally give them secret missions that their parents don't know about, and like that's absurd. Like, I forget their ages. I think Frank is 18 and Joe is 17, but at least one of them is a minor, and it's just like funny. I don't know, like, I enjoy it. I don't necessarily know that I would really recommend these to other people. Like, to kids, definitely. Like, these are fun. Like, they're an updated Hardy Boys. It's fantastic. And maybe to adults who really love the Hardy Boys and want like kind of a silly, fun updated version of it, I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it's really good. Like, people going in who haven't read the Hardy Boys would probably read this and be like, not so much. I can kind of see that, but it was fun for me. Like, I'm probably only going to read the second one. I'm not going to continue on with the series. I might read an old Hardy Boys or like a Nancy Drew or something if I feel like it later, but I don't really think that this is a series that I really need to read a second of. Like, in this book, Joe gets a mohawk. Like, Joe Hardy gets a legit mohawk. He, like, shaves his head and has a mohawk, and Frank dyes his hair blue, and they get a parrot. Like, it's fun. I don't know. But, like, these started coming out when I was 11, and I just think, like, I was the perfect age. Like, if you have an 11-year-old who likes to read, who likes action stuff, and maybe would be turned off by the fact that Hardy Boys was originally started in, like, the 20s and 30s, like, they are old, they are very dated. This is also dated, but it's, like, 15 years old, so kind of less so. It's kind of got the charm of, like, a mid-2000s action middle grade book, but I love that. But yeah, like, if you have kids who you think would like Hardy Boys, but like don't really like the old setting, don't really like that it's so dated, definitely recommend these because they're just fun, and I'm really looking forward to reading the next one. Like, there's so much I'd forgotten about these. Like, they have suspect profiles. Let me see if I can find one real quick. Oh, there's one. They have, like, little suspect profiles in these, and they're just, like, fun, and I did remember who the bad guy was in this one. Not, like, off the top of my head, but, like, once we got, like, 30 pages into the book, I was like, oh yeah, I remember who it is. And it was kind of fun to see how obvious all the little plot twists were, because there were so many plot twists in this that, like, I didn't get as a kid. And I remember being absolutely shook by some of them, which is just, like, I don't know. I like it. I like it a lot. And I'm excited to read the second one, even if, like, that's probably gonna be it. I don't think I'll, like, read a bunch in the series. I think I said earlier that this book was called Engulfed in Flames. It's definitely not. It's called Running on Fumes. I don't know why I said Engulfed in Flames. I just wasn't reading it, apparently. But I just finished this one, and I also gave it 4 stars. I did find it harder to get through. Not so much because of the book itself or the story or anything within it, just because it was the second that I'd read in a row. And I gave it the same rating because I was like, if I'd read it on its own, I probably would have had the same reaction as I did with the first book. It was just, like, 2 in a row was a little bit much for me, which isn't that surprising, but, like, when I was a kid, I used to go through, like, 4 or 5 of these at once. Like, these were my favorites. So this one was about the boys go on this mission to go to a commune that's, like, out in the desert, that's suspected of eco-terrorism, and they basically go there and, like, go undercover and pretend to be eco-terrorists, I guess. And I don't know, like, it's silly. It's a silly plot, but it's fun. And, like, it relies a little bit too much on, like, archetypes and cliches, but I feel like that's kind of expected with Hardy Boys. Like, there have been however many hundreds of Hardy Boys books written, and yeah, they're not anything really special, but they're fun, and that's really all you want. The first one was about extreme sports. They go to basically the X Games, and someone there is wreaking havoc at the X Games, and they have to figure out who, and they're fun. They're really fun. And they have these, like, tricked out motorcycles, and I don't know. I really enjoy these books. I don't think they're, like, the greatest thing in the world, obviously, but again, as a kid, they were great. For kids, they're fun, although slightly dated in a very different way, since they're, like, 15 years old, and the others are, like, 100 almost. I will probably try to read some of the others sometime, but not anytime soon. I feel like 2 was kind of enough for me, that I need a little break from Hardy Boys for a minute. 2 in a row was, like, my limit. I do really want to read, like, 1 or 2 more books just for this challenge. Possibly Nancy Drew, possibly a middle grade historical fiction diary. Depending on what I'm feeling. I'm gonna take a break for a few hours just to, like, unwind, because this was a lot. The second one made it a lot. I don't know, like, they're super fast. Like, they don't actually get to the commune until, like, page 45 or something, and it's only, 150 pages long, so all the action happens very, very quickly. But, it's a kid's book. Like, and these are middle grade, but these are also, like, young middle grade. Like, these are meant for kids, and I can't really fault it for any of that. And they're fun. They're really fun. I love these as a kid. I still enjoy them as an adult. They're just, like, they have their flaws, but, the nostalgia helps a little bit, and hopefully I will have time to read one or two more things. So I just finished The Journal of Ben Uchida. I forgot to look up how to pronounce this just now. I meant to. This is by Barry Dinenberg. This is a book in the Dear America it's a series, I guess, a collection of middle grade historical fiction diaries. Basically, different authors write about fictional characters or sometimes real people in various historical situations. I read a bunch of these as a kid, which is why this book counted, and it was wonderful. It was a great reread. I gave it 4 stars. This is set in 1942. It is about the internment camps in the United States, the Japanese internment camps. It's very heartbreaking, it's very sad, but Ben's voice in this book is so sarcastic and funny, and I think that's why I liked it a lot as a kid. Like, it's like really dark, but just like sarcastic humor that you're like, wow, savage, to like everything he says. And it's just really funny and really wonderful and really informative. Like, this especially is like one of those books that really taught me so much when I was a kid, because I was probably reading these when I was about 10. And as a 10-year-old, I didn't really know anything about the Japanese internment camps during World War II in America. Like, I knew about the Nazis, I'm sure, but no one really talks to small children about this. Like, you learn it in middle school and high school a little bit, but not really any younger. So this was probably my first introduction to it. And a lot of these books were my first introduction to various points in history, which is why I think they're so wonderful, because I learned so much. It gave me such like a good foundation of knowledge. Like, obviously it's historical fiction. It's like real short, so you're not like learning great quantities of information, but it just gives you that foundation to build off of, so that when you start learning some facts about these things, you've already heard of them, and you can just like add the facts to your prior knowledge. And I don't know, I love these. I highly recommend them. I think the funny thing about rereading this was how much I'd forgotten. Like, I must have mixed this up in my head with another story, either movie or TV show or book, about a Japanese internment camp, because I remembered him having an older brother, and the older brother enlisting while they were at the camp. And that didn't happen. He didn't have an older brother. He had an older sister, and like a lot of this, like, I just hadn't remembered at all. But it was really good to reread it. Just like refresh my knowledge, basically. I thought it was wonderful. Highly recommend. I didn't give it 5 stars because it ended very abruptly, and these books tend to do that a little bit just because they are diaries, so you can't like end them in a typical narrative fashion, but they still usually have some sort of climax, some sort of big moment, and then a conclusion, even if it's not like a regular conclusion. And this just sort of randomly stopped. Like, there was no build up to anything. Like, this was just his diary, which, like, I didn't mind so much. It was just, like, weird at the ending when it just stopped and then you got the epilogue. So that was why it didn't make 5 stars for me. And I don't think the writing was as good as the historical fiction diaries that I read from Ellen Emerson White. Like, I don't know if that's because I consider her my favorite author, so it's, like, a bias that I have, or if that's why she's my favorite author, because she just is better. But I thought hers were better, but I would recommend this one, especially, like, for kids, because, like, they're so informative, and, like, in that way where they're not just teaching you the facts of a situation, they're telling you a person's story so you can relate, and I highly, highly recommend. The June prompt, it is June 1st, but the June prompt is going to be reread a series or a book from a series. I have 2 that I can't show you because they're propping up my phone, but I would like to read Harry Potter, all 7 books. I used to reread them every year, so I really don't foresee that being a problem doing it in 1 month, because I used to do it in 1 week, and I kind of am gonna try to do a 24-hour Harry Potter reading marathon. We'll see how that goes and how many I can get through. And the other series that I would like to get to if I have time but is less of a priority is The Protector of the Small series by Tamara Pierce. If you've been following my rereading at all, you've noticed that I read 2 of her previous series in the Tortel universe. This is the next series in the Tortel universe, and I'm kind of trying to make my way through all of those at some point this year, so if I don't get to it this month, I'll just use it for another month. Let me know down below if you participated in the rereadathon this month and what you read and what you thought of it, and let me know if you're going to be participating in June. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all again soon.